So let's look at an intro discussion on cancer. So we know that cancer occurs when cells have abnormal growth. And so what happens is that there is damage to the DNA of in a cell, and this damage to the DNA occurs in a region that controls the rate at which that cell grows or divides. And so as a result, the cell stops or ignores any signals that it gets to stop dividing. And these signals can be, for example, from its neighbor cell saying, hey, you're crowding in our space, you're touching us, you're too close. And so as a result, they continue to grow. And during this process, they do other things like they don't stick to surfaces or other cells, which results in them continuing to grow. Because if they stuck to other cells, there would be feedback mechanisms that could help to get them to stop growing or dividing. They don't self-destruct. Normally when a cell gets damage to their DNA, then when the self-checking mechanism and the editing mechanism notices this, it will cause the cell to self-destruct. And if it occurs in a stem cell, what happens is they don't specialize and become the different types of cells of the body. Okay, so the DNA is damaged. The DNA that's damaged is in specific regions that controls the growth. Okay, the damage can be caused by a variety of what we call mutagens or carcinogens. Okay, and we have a list of them that could cause the DNA to damage. So what happens is that they damage the one of the strands of DNA in the cell. Now, in most cases, because we have two copies of each strand, if one is damaged, the other is still okay and can control it. But if both of them get damaged, then what can happen is the cell can go uncontrolled and continue to divide and grow and divide and grow and divide. Okay, so cancer or uncontrolled growth of cells can result in what we call tumors. And there are two types of tumors. One is called a benign tumor, and one is a malignant. A benign tumor does not spread. Okay, it's a bit more slow growing, but they do grow with and don't stop when they're told. Whereas a malignant one would, as we can see here in our diagram, they can have individual cells break off from the group of cells and travel to other parts of the body and spread. And when each of these cells gets to a new region of the body, then they can grow to a new tumor. And then a few of the cells can break off and spread, and we can get more and more tumors. Cancer cells take nutrients. So one of the things they do is they suck up a lot of nutrients so that they can grow rapidly and spread. Okay. Most cancers are caused by environmental factors. Some are due to genetics. Okay, common environmental factors, which we call carcinogens, include tobacco, diet and obesity, infections, radiation, stress, and lack of physical activity. Radiation can include UV and pollutants. Okay, so tobacco and tobacco smoke. It contains over 50 known carcinogens, and when people smoke, they bring these carcinogens into their lungs, and they expose the cells of their lungs constantly with these carcinogens, constantly having a chance every time of one of these compounds damaging the DNA of the cell. And so as a result, tobacco cause is linked to about 1/5 of all cancer-causing deaths in the world. Okay. Over time, the amount of cancer rates due to tobacco smoke and lung cancer have decreased in males, but unfortunately it's come up in females. Some infections can cause cancer. Okay. And usually it's viruses, but some parasites and bacteria, but usually viruses. And the reason that viruses can cause cancer is because viruses, when they go into the cell, they have their own genetic material, and their genetic material can do one of two things. Their genetic material can just attach to the ribosomes of the cell and start making all the pieces required to make new viruses and then form new viruses. And then when there's enough, the cell explodes. Or we could have what are called retroviruses. And retroviruses, an example of it is the virus that causes HIV. And what it does is it will take a section of DNA and stick it in the host DNA. And so as a result, every cell that's now copied from that cell will contain the genetic information of the virus. And so if it's inserted at the wrong spot, it can damage the control. Okay? And one virus that we thankfully have been able to develop a vaccine for and decrease its rate of cancer is the human papilloma virus. And many of you might have gotten the shots for this when you were in grade 7. Okay, so some differences between normal cells and cancer cells. Okay, normal cells control growth occurs in a normal manner. Cancer cells uncontrolled. Normal cells communicate with each other. Cancer cells lose the ability to communicate with each other, so they grow uncontrolled. Normal cells stick together and stick to surfaces, which allows them to stay in their proper location. Cancer cells don't stick. And so that's why they're able to move around in the body and they don't get signals. Normal cells will specialize and do their jobs. Cancer cells don't. Normal cells, when they're damaged, they die. Cancer cells don't. So, what are some treatments for cancer? Well, we could have surgery where we remove the tumors. We can have chemotherapy where we expose it to chemicals. We can have radiotherapy where we use high energy radiation and we target it specifically at the cancer cells. We can have targeted therapy. We can have immunotherapy. This one's a new one, immunotherapy. It's actually really cool. What they do is they will take segments and pieces of the cancer cell and break it up with like radio waves or something, and then you have little pieces of the cancer cell, and then your immune system targets it, takes care of it. We can have stem cell transplants, so this occurs for people, for example, who have leukemia, and they can use lasers to heat up the cancer cells and cause them to die.